Are you struggling with jazz comping and independence? If so, I know how you feel. This was a particularly difficult skill for me to master as well, and eventually I did find some techniques that made jazz comping and independence a little bit easier, and I know what I'm going to show you today will make it much easier for you as well. By the way, if you're new to Brad Allen Drums, I'm a Kansas City jazz drummer, and I'm also a private teacher who has helped many different students to learn to play jazz, including my student Zach Forsyth, who became a professional drummer and toured China with trumpeter Lee Sachwan. Okay, I'm going to show you 4 jazz comping and independent exercises. Also, I have 10 essential jazz comping and independent exercises that I'd like to send you absolutely free. Just follow the link in the video or in the comments below to get a free copy. The first thing that I'd like to explain is that I teach jazz comping and independence the opposite of the way most jazz drummers teach it. Most of the time they show you the basic jazz ride cymbal rhythm, and then they and all the drumming books you buy will tell you to practice various rhythms underneath the basic jazz rhythm. And the idea is you never change the ride cymbal rhythm. You play very independently. You don't let anything your left hand or right foot plays affect that right hand jazz cymbal rhythm. So what's wrong with that? Nothing. It's a perfectly musical thing to play. So why don't I start with that? Well, there are actually several different reasons. The first is because it's very difficult. Out of all the things I learned to do on the drums, jazz independence was one of the most difficult. As a matter of fact, I still work on it. So again, if you find it very difficult, you're not alone. I just got an email from an adult student who's played in rock and pop bands for many years, and now he's playing in a jazz band. So what a guy like that needs are some things that he can play for jazz comping immediately. He needs things he can learn to play pretty quickly and easily, not things that take 5 years to practice before he can use them. And so do you. The second reason I don't start with the traditional approach is that it's very limiting, especially at faster tempos. If you listen to the great jazz drummers like Tony Williams, they didn't play that way all the time. It became impossible to maintain that strict jazz ride cymbal when playing up-tempo jazz. And other drummers like Mel Lewis constantly broke up the ride cymbal rhythm. These were some of the best jazz drummers who ever lived. So maintaining the strict jazz cymbal rhythm is a great thing to practice. I just don't think that you should start learning to comp that way or limit yourself to that way in the future. I'm going to show you a method of comping that'll help you function in a jazz band fairly quickly. After you have learned the way I'm going to show you, you can continue to develop your independence some more with some more difficult exercises. Does that sound good? If so, please comment yes below. Okay, so the first concept I want you to think about is this. You have 2 basic rhythms that you can play on the ride cymbal. You have the traditional swing rhythm, the second rhythm is quarter notes. Either of these works well because the bass player is going to be playing a walking bass line, which is just basically quarter notes. I want you to think of all the rhythms you play on the ride cymbal to be either one of those 2 rhythms or basically a combination of them, okay? You're going to play the hi-hat on 2 and 4 with your left foot. Keep that going all the time through every exercise. After a short time, that will become second nature and you won't have to think about it anymore. To me, that's an example of some jazz independence you really need to master quickly. Now, how do we comp with that? Well, first of all, let's define comping. Comping is accompanying. You want to play varied rhythms with your snare drum and also with your bass drum. You want to start with very basic ideas. And again, as you get more comfortable, you'll move on to more difficult rhythms. Ultimately, we want to play similar things to what a jazz pianist or a guitarist plays. Rhythmic jab, short rhythmic ideas. You want to fit in with what they're playing. That doesn't mean that you're going to try to double what they're playing, but you want to complement what they play. As a general rule, it's better to underplay than to overplay. Part of the way you learn to do this is simply listening to how other jazz drummers have done it in the past. Understand that the comping ideas you play are not just random notes. Ultimately, you should play short musical phrases. Think of them as simple, short, solo-like figures or fill ideas that you play on your snare and bass drum while maintaining the ride cymbal and the hi-hat pulse. Okay, so now that we know what we need to do, we need to develop some independence and some ideas that we can use. Ultimately, you want to learn to improvise your comping, but it's definitely easier if you start by practicing some very specific examples or exercises. So here's exercise 1. So when you try this for yourself, you'll find that this is actually a very easy thing to play. The snare drum falls between two right-hand quarter notes, so it feels very natural. One point I'd like to make here is that the musicians that you play with and the audience that you play for really don't care whether what you play is easy or difficult. They just care that it feels and sounds good. So this is a good reason to at least start with easy things as you're learning a new skill on the drums like jazz comping. Here's exercise 2. Again, you'll find this very easy to play. Notice that I've modified the right hand in the second measure. The first 3 notes are quarter notes, much easier to master than insisting on the traditional jazz rhythm. This is much more natural, and as long as you swing, everybody's happy. Exercise 3. For this one, I left out the snare but added 3 notes on the bass drum. Not that interesting, I know, but these are the type of things you should start with practicing before you practice difficult independence or comping patterns. Notice again that I've modified the right hand pattern. It's very easy to play in unison with your right hand and right foot. The reason this ride works is that the ride cymbal quarter notes are very consistent, and this glues everything together. Exercise 4. So this is a 2-measure comping example. Notice I played 2 measures of jazz time before the comping idea. This is a good way to practice because it teaches you phrasing. It's a musical way to practice jazz independence and comping. Again, notice on the ride I'm actually just playing quarter notes while I'm playing the comp figure. You don't have to do this forever, but it's sure easier in the beginning. Hopefully now you see the process. Find things that work that are easy to play in the beginning. I'm mostly playing the snare and bass with the quarter note ride or in between the quarter notes. There aren't any hard and fast rules here really, other than you keep the hi-hat going on 2 and 4, you focus a lot on the quarter note on the ride cymbal, and you allow yourself to deviate from the traditional jazz ride cymbal rhythm as it feels natural. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have 10 more jazz comping exercises that I'd like to send you absolutely free. Just follow the link in the video or in the comments below. Now, did you find this helpful? Please comment below. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel for new drum lessons every week. And we'll see you next time.